Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline. My name is Ben, and I'm continuing to watch and review the Ewoks show. Last week I caught episode 1, which was quite impressive. I liked it a lot. It is obviously not the Book of Boba Fett. We all know that the show is intended for kids. That's exactly how I'm looking at it. What would this show feel like if I saw it for the first time when I was like 5 or 6 years old? As an adult who studied animation, of course I want to take a look at art. I want to see what kind of writing the show has, and all of its elements, how they come together, and do they comprise for a strong show, or is it something as, when I was first Googling it, they were saying it's an obscure Star Wars show, it wasn't very popular, it's only 2 seasons long. Well, actually I decided to watch it for myself. So guys, let's jump right into it. Quick spoiler alert, if you don't want to find out what's up with the story, or if you don't want your kids to find out, they're sitting right next to you, I'm going to talk about characters and the storyline here, so please turn away now. If you did see it, please drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts were on the show in general, of this particular episode. What are your favorite parts or characters and so forth? So we are on episode 2, which is called The Haunted Village. And guys, I didn't bring it up in the original review, but in part 2, I wanted to highlight, obviously, Paul Dini, the mastermind behind many prominent Warner Brothers shows. A lot of you, I'm sure, grew up with him: Batman, Superman, Animaniacs, and so forth. He's a very, very popular name in the cartoon business, cartoon animation on American television. So that's another component that I wanted to look at. How does the writing evolve, and how does it feel like, even within the context of a children's show? So we start from a very strong setup here. We watch that we're back to the village of Ewoks, and their arch enemy, Morag the witch, she's up to no good once again. She sends her evil creature, Mantigrue, which obviously looks like a dinosaur, because why not? We as kids all adored dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure if you have a kid right now, they are into dinosaurs. It's just a given all across the board. I don't care if the kids are from Russia, from the US. Kids have that fascination with like primordial world and these wonderful looking creatures. It plays into that fantasy element. And Morag sends her creature to destroy the sunberry trees where the bears are plucking their fruits from. So in the beginning of the episode, we see Wicket and his friend Nisa. They're hanging out in the forest, and right away the trouble brews. And I thought actually for the whole episode that they're gonna kidnap one of the Ewoks, and that's gonna be the premise of the show. But it's actually quite different. We see an environmental message that basically the entire episode is about preserving and keeping the forest, the environment the Ewoks live on. And of course, we see one of the prime chiefs of the village, Master Logray. He's the one who supplies with the answer to this trouble. He says, look, we gotta save the trees, and the way to do it is with a magical invisibility soap. Once again, we're returning to the magical element. We saw it in the Ewoks live action films, right? Part 1 and 2, which I absolutely adored. I just love it, guys. I'm from that generation of kids who grew up watching American and Russian and European fantasy films of the 80s, and there's that sweet, innocent feel to them of good versus evil. It's not snarky, it's not sarcastic, doesn't have those modern vibes to it. It's a very old school kind of like experience, and same is with this Ewok show, which I like quite a lot. It's right up my alley. So what I liked from the beginning of the episode is that for the kids, they sort of trained them and they explained how this magical soap works. They saw it visually, they saw how the Ewoks are using it, and the trees disappear, and some of them, the children disappear when the soap gets over their bodies, and then they quickly show you how you can easily get things back to normal by washing over it. And I think that's also very, very important, because when George Lucas dropped the major plot twist in the 80s by saying like, Luke, I am your father, a lot of kids didn't understand. I couldn't believe that fact. And they actually had to release an official statement reassuring the kids that it's not just a play on words, because kids, their minds work differently, right? They need some kind of reinforcement of ideas to understand what's happening. And I really like that the show is treating children carefully, and it's showing them like, this is how it is. It's kind of like guides them. There's quite a bit of hand-holding, and obviously you need that for the kids show, and I think it plays into the show effectively, and it's telling children the story that it's easy to follow. Once again, I like the environmental message that, look, one of the things that animation show or a good story or a children's book can do is present lessons in a fun and entertaining way without being preachy, without saying like this is how you should behave, this is what you should do. You could tell a fun and exciting story with cartoony, like silly characters like Ewoks that kids could absorb, and later on have a discussion with their parents, and daddy could say like, hey, you see what the Ewok bears are doing, you should do the same and be mindful of your environment. Very sweet, very nice, and very innocent, and I think quite important. Even within the entertainment spectrum, you need to have something that has merit and value and valuable lessons for kids to learn. And it's also like, hey kids, this is a magical soap. So in a way, it's also reinforcing the idea like you gotta stay clean and soap up and wash every morning and so forth. And of course, it plays into the original trilogy of films where when we see the Ewoks in The Return of the Jedi, we know that they know how to hide, they're resourceful, they look silly on the surface, but they actually help the rebellion, right? And I like that. They're showing that aspect of the culture here that was really, really cool. It also shows in this episode that everyone must work together. Everybody has a part to play. The adults have their part. Wicket and Nisa looking after the kids, they also have a part to play with it. And it's a sense of community, of friendship, and we're all together in this. I really, really like that. It's not just a silly, mindless show like escapist. Oh, look, it's just gummy bears jumping around. Not to say that Gummy Bears is not a good show. I personally grew up with that. Every other word when I say Ewoks, I just want to say Gummy Bears, guys. It's just like that's how connected I am into that childhood past of watching Disney cartoons, and now I'm watching Ewoks. Is pretty fun too. But we also see the Dulak tribe, and I like that they show a little bit more of them. Once again we see a little bit of culture. We see that they have this chieftain, and they're these kind of like silly, no good kind of creatures, but they're not necessarily connected just to the Morag witch. For some reason, I thought in the first episode they're like the henchmen that only do Morag's bidding, right? The evil witch. But not quite. We see like they have their own little part of the forest, and they're up to no good. They want to actually steal this soap. I like that. I hope we see more of them, and I hope we see other alien species or tribes of Yavin 4 Andor, as we saw in this cartoon. Because when you see Andor in The Return of the Jedi, there is a sense of lore. There is a sense of like, hey, what other cultures live here? And obviously that's being extended and played upon in 2 feature films. Once again, guys, I just love those movies. And yes, there's like magic. It plays more into like medieval sort of fantasy show rather than space opera, sci-fi. Who cares? It's just fun to watch. And I think that the movies work together well on their own, and so does the show. And I like the part where Wicket and Nisa, and they're playing around with the kids in the pond, and the kids are just like swimming around. That was kind of so sweet and so silly and so cute. Like when I have kids someday, I definitely want to show them this show, because that's what I think is best for kids. Before they start learning the ropes and like how the real world works, you got to introduce them to something innocent and jumpstart there, and then go into like heavier Star Wars themes with like the Clone Wars show, right? Which gets progressively darker and harder to watch. And there are aspects of that show which are very adult oriented when all the clones are being, betrayed, or some of the team members die. That's like so heavy and dark. For a younger generation, this is the kind of show that you want to show them. And of course, at the end of the episode, Wicket gets that little kiss from Nisa, just a play of a little like innocent romance between the kind of like 2 children or young adults. I don't know exactly what Wicket's age is supposed to be. I assume he's a younger Ewok. He's much shorter than the rest of them. But once again, he gets that kiss from his friend, and he says, thank you, Nisa. Lovely episode, guys. I really, really enjoyed that. And what I like from the standpoint of an adult is the Ewok village, right? When you look at the art, this is straight up Ralph McQuarrie designs right there, transplanted into the show. Everything looks good. Everything moves even better. I gotta make this distinction. As much as I enjoyed the Droids show, I think that the Ewok show is by far better animated show. From the way that the bears like bounce and jump in different action sequences, and the sense of stretch and squash, and when they bump into the trees, there's a sense of weight to it. Or even when they emote, right? When the villager explains to him, to the tribe, like, this is what the soap is supposed to do, and then we're supposed to paint all the trees to hide them. all the magical effects, all the way that they work, and the way that the faces animate when they express emotion. Fantastic job. I just wish this show was HD remastered. I'm still hopeful, like fingers crossed, that at some point they will go to Disney Plus and kind of like update the files and bring this show to full modern age HD stuff. Because it feels like when you watch the droids, it's more high definition, like it's crisper picture. You could pick out so many details in the background. Here, especially in the beginning of the episode, when that huge giant dinosaur creature flies over Wicket and his friend, and the picture gets darker, you could say like it's really muddy and there's a lot of grain and the details are lost in translation. And it's a little bit unfortunate because the art is so strong in this show. I hope Disney hires somebody to remaster it in full HD. All in all, a great episode. I'm totally hooked, guys. I can't wait to see what happens in episode 3. I'm just having a blast. You know, we could have our adult show like The Book of Boba Fett. We could have Mandalorian. Kenobi show is coming out. I know you guys are all hyped just like I am. But I'm having a kick watching this show because I love tons of animation. I still rewatch Thundercats. I would watch old school Ninja Turtles any day of the week. I just enjoy the art of it. It's very vibrant, it's very distinct, and it's quite different from digital animation. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. I can't wait to see what happens next, but I also want to talk to you about this. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think of the show. What else can I look forward to? But please don't drop any spoilers. I'm kind of invested enough not to read any spoilers. I want to find out the story for myself. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next week.